Greetings and God bless. I just wanted to make an observation about the past few years. So, folks were saying, like in 2020, so everybody was like basically down with the establishment and then down with medical autonomy, and humans are a cancer on the planet, and this color is a crime against humanity. and and it was weird because there were the riots and defund so and so, and is that when the stuff in Ukraine started happening? And so people would have like different, like there'd be some new flavor of the week, flavor of the month, like some progressive leftist thing. And so people would have the Facebook profile pic, and that they would be pushing that agenda. And so like now, so everybody was like all about having a Ukraine flag in their window, and being really dogmatic about Ukraine. And now it's folks in the Middle East that folks are dogmatic about. Now, when I was in college, I met I met people from Palestine, and I still didn't really understand what the problem was. I just 16, 17 years old, so I didn't have a whole lot of experience with world politics. And so, but now there's people who, and I had a vague, I would actually, over the years, I would be like Palestine, Pakistan. Like I was getting those the P countries, the terminology, I was getting confused. But since last October, these folks who are all about Ukraine, or all about defunding, or all about forcing people to get masks and send whoever didn't want to get masked and injected and swabbed, that they should go to concentration camps. Now, the push is about stuff going on in the Middle East, and hostility and danger to, the Hebrew genre. And I think what I try to bring up with folks that are pro one side or the other, I'm trying to point out is that there's this deep state agenda, and what's going on between Jewish people and whoever, or the police and whoever. Like, it's not even about those issues. Those are theatrical hooks to get people reactive. And it is a compelling situation. People are, victims of war or whatever. But like, and it's interesting because people will really get into the minutia about one side or the other. And they're not acknowledging that there's this globalist overthrow that's being attempted right now. And the more everybody is divided against each other, because like everything, like since 2020, even before, I would say 2008 would be when I started noticing, like when I wasn't into the Green Party, and I was telling that to friends and family, like, so people were like, because I wasn't voting for the candidate in the winner of 2008, like people, I was now suspect, even though I was like, I was more into an independent person who had a sense of the Federal Reserve. And I was still like, I was like, wow, there's a Federal Reserve that's corrupted. It's not this, that, and the other thing. And of course, let me just preface all of this, or put this all into context. These are just my opinions. These are just my observations. This is not the this platform's opinion. So just letting AI and the bots and Big Brother know that this is just me talking out loud and what I've observed. But folks are getting all like hot and bothered, failing to realize that there's been like a psychological operation, social engineering that's been perpetuated on the American public. And it's weird because when I was going to a leftist college, like they would talk about the Tuskegee experiment or something like where um, a terrible disease was allowed to perpetuate on a black community, and it was just really just terrible consequences, a very bad, long, prolonged suffering way to die. And yet people, so like, and when I was, in the 90s, like people of color were like, they were like, I'm going to have children because um sort of as just like, to declare life in a way, like as protest against opposition or oppression. And but it's interesting because the very same kind of active, like defying evil kind of behavior, like those the same mentality and people are like embracing the evil now. It's weird. It's like the folks that were like, we got to have a lot of kids to make up for what bad things have happened in the past. Now these people are like, we should do, population control. um and it's like it's like I keep having this feeling of like invasion of the body snatchers, like who removed these people that I've known for 30 years, 50 years, who replaced them? Because these are not my family members and my friends. Because 20 years ago, they wouldn't have been so brainwashed, so dogmatic, so lockstep with like a fascist totalitarian agenda. And when I try to get into the weeds, like when I try to get into the ideology, like the understanding, the moral backbone of a situation, folks don't want to talk about it, and they kind of attack me personally. So, and again, this isn't just the social control, political, control kind of thing that's going on in our world. It's a supernatural battle. And it's a battle between good and evil. And it's not just like vague good and evil. It's a battle between the God of the Bible and Satan, the Satan that's described in the Bible. And people are like, oh, there's no such thing as the Bible. There's no such thing as God and Satan, whatever. And the thing is, like, all the challenges that are going on, all the weird stuff that's going on in our culture, it's biblical. Like, it's of biblical proportions. And the kind of weird, twisted, perverse, horrific things that are occurring, like there's that term, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Like all these things that are doing that are being kind of pushed for your good, or it's for everybody's good, whether it's locking things down or forcing weird liquids into your bloodstream, or exposing your children to like obscenity. It's for good. It means you're a nice person. It makes you a better person. You're helping the world. Um, it's biblical. Like these things that we're told is good is what we know to be not good, and it's in the Bible. Like, and people are like, the Bible can't be right. And you are supposed to study. You are supposed to get informed. And in this age of the internet, where there's so many good Bible studies out there, such a variety of sermons and people and things to read and books. Like, there's no excuse for being ignorant. There's no excuse like, oh, it's too boring. It's not. Like, you will be able to find somebody, because there's so many fascinating topics that you can explore in Bible study. And I know, we've been brainwashed that the Bible is boring or over our heads and stuff like that. And just begin to look, and I'm not saying, make yourself suffer with somebody who's a terrible speaker or whatever about a topic, going through the genealogies and boring yourself to death. Do a research on mermaids and giants, or whatever it is that is of your, UFOs, like whatever is kind of a fun, gratuitous thing to study, and the Bible will address it. And back to the supernatural thing. So, um, there is a supernatural component, and there are demons, and folks are willfully ignorant. And it's weird, because on one hand they love Halloween or horror movies and role-playing games, or video games, or science fiction movies or something like that, and everybody's like reading Harry Potter or Game of Thrones or something like that. So people love this, alternative reality and supernatural stuff, but they won't realize that applies to here. And we are in a battle right now. We are in a supernatural battle. However, we're not here to fight it ourselves. It's God that fights it, but we have to have a relationship with God, and we have to do the research to have that relationship. And I'm not saying you have to do a huge, long process or whatever, but like, folks, I think what I've discovered is, I think there's a lot of half-baked Christians, and they haven't really had a serious, like, they don't really know God. They don't really have a strong relationship with God. And maybe they did what they thought they should do. And so then they become, and then these half-baked Christians or are pushing Christianity to their loved ones, or they're running a church or whatever. And so these are poor testimonies. These are poor examples. These aren't Christians who should be out there pushing Christianity when they're half-baked. And then people get hurt by these half lukewarm, Christians, and it repels people from Jesus, because they're thinking, oh my God, this is Jesus. I don't want to have anything to do with it. And I cannot blame anybody who's like, I don't want to be around these fakes. I don't want to be around these sketchy people who are, their clothes are well ironed and they got a fancy haircut, but they're like just not, they give me the creeps. But that does not, that does not mean you don't have a relationship with God. That doesn't mean you abandon the search for God, especially when we are in such biblical times where prophecies are being fulfilled, week by week, and for a long time, and it keeps on happening and ramping up. So, and there's one other thing. Let's see. Well, what do you guys think about current events and these weird agendas, and how people are they're just kind of having knee-jerk reaction, and like, what's the new poster child of the month kind of a thing? Like, I think folks need to take a step back, like a few steps back, and realize, wow, they changed their profile pic from Ukraine, from like BLM to Ukraine to Palestine to what's next, what's going to be next. And it's all happened in a rapid succession too. It's not like, slowly faded in and fade out. And and so my point is that even though we think it's about Republicans against the Democrats or Palestinians against the Jews, It's not. Like, those are sock puppets, so to speak, but there's like these globalists who could care less about anybody. Everybody could be nuked as far as they're concerned. Um, but they want us fighting within each other, and it atomizes us. So like there's even fewer people we get to talk to because they just introduced some new thing like raw fruit foods versus uh fermented foods. I mean, it's like there's just all sorts of like hills we die upon for identity, or I don't know, I guess it's human nature. Maybe it's this tribal kind of a thing. But I think like folks, like, we need to, instead of saying it's all one party's fault, it's all one group's fault, I think we need to say everybody's a pawn. Like everybody's being manipulated, including myself. Uh, so yeah, because it's easy. It's like the news is very effective at generating a reaction, emotions, and stuff like that. And I think it's also, and when we also, and what's missing in all of this is that supernatural component. And unfortunately, like I was listening to Christian radio, and so they were, taking the conservative approach, and then there'd be an injection commercial by Pfizer or something like that. So I'm like, well, so what is going on? And I listened to Mud Flood, Tartaria channels, and the guy was, saying the folks like that he didn't say it explicitly because that would have you know caused a problem, but he was saying the one party should be there and the biblical party shouldn't. Um, and so I think the most intelligent thing to be aware of is that there's globalists who could care less about anybody, and they want us fighting. And next month there's going to be a new one, and the month after that there's going to be a new war, a new crisis, a new hill where we're going to die upon. And like we need to start paying attention because this has been going on for a while. Like with every election, okay, so every 4 years, okay, but like now it is like every few months there's some new kind of crisis. And uh and we need to be a little smarter. Like we need to be a little bit more mature. And like I don't like all of the people on either side. I think, but I don't dislike everybody either. I think there's people behaving badly on both sides, and there's genuine innocent people on both sides. And I don't think innocent people should have to suffer for, number one, what the globalists are doing, and number two, what the jerky people on either side are doing. And I don't think vengeance like is is a good excuse either, because that's what I'm noticing with this latest kind of a thing. Like with Ukraine, nobody was like saying, "Oh, it's good to, torture Russian people," but now like people are like, "Yeah, so and so should be suffering, and so and so should be like, you know, attacked and blah blah blah." Even in America, like that's like there's this kind of perverse turn things are taking. And I was reading an article about how like people, we begin to lose our humanity once we're in this altered state where we're not in reality anymore. And I think that's definitely what happened. Like there's this book by Masters about the hypnotic states of America, and his name again is Roy Masters, and he talks about how people are they get traumatized, and then they're in this hypnotized state. They become hypnotized, and they become addicted to the hypnosis. It's like it's like some folks can become addicted to the trauma. They're addicted to being traumatized, to being abused. And I think that's I mean, definitely 2020 and onward, that has occurred, because it's like I'm seeing people wanting to sabotage themselves, sabotage their entire like race, um, turning a blind eye to when their race is killing their race, and somehow trying to blame it all on some guy whose name begins with a T. And the thing is, I don't believe in the guy whose name begins with a T. Like that's what I keep on trying to tell folks, is like everything's a psyop. Everything's like some sort of social engineering. The fact that he keeps on pushing the injection again is like, that's telling. And people are attributing like some sort of like fifth dimensional genius to his approach. And it's like, how many years since he was the white hats were going to because we have to go slow so everybody wakes up. I don't feel entirely I just I don't I, um like I don't feel good about that. And I mean, when have we had like healthy culture in history? I mean, I was a kid in the 70s, and things were tough then, because Jimmy Carter let all the people out of the mental institutions, and then we had a influx of Cubans. And so I was growing up in New York City, so it was like sketchy on the streets, and just walking to school or whatever. And um, there was crime, and it was stressful. But because we weren't like hypnotized by social media, or getting so caught up in world affairs or politics, like people were interacting. Like I would interact with my siblings and my parents, and they weren't healthy people, but there was just more like emotional contact and interpersonal uh, exchange. Talking with classmates and friends. It was a much healthier culture right now, and now we're all so insulated and atomized. Like nobody listens to the same music as somebody else. Nobody watches the same movie as somebody else. Like everybody has their esoteric, finely curated content. So it's so hard to find somebody who's familiar with what you like, and those that do, these folks are in Timbuktu. It's all online. And as a result, we're not um, having real relationships. Um, and so we're in this altered state, perhaps. And I just, it seems to me, with what happened in 2020, the riots, and all this like all this pressure being put on people, that they're forced to do some medical things, suffocating and hiding their face, and breaking their crib form plate with the nasal swab. um, I think it did a mind alter, like an MK Ultra. It was like this global MK Ultra experience. And and I go from one kind of conservative place, when I'm hoping is a conservative Christian place, hoping to find reality, hoping to find sanity. And the virus of the left, and the virus of the fear, it's everywhere. Um, and I never was looking for it when I was a liberal in California or Oregon. My like the left was my realm, but it hadn't gotten so radicalized. It hadn't gotten so pathological, because when I was a liberal, like everybody was up on karma, and They had a sense of morality, even though they didn't, talk about Christianity, but it wasn't like, well, I'm an oppressed person, so I harm you and have no repercussions. I noticed that the first time I noticed that was around a man who was taking hormones to become a woman, or to have breasts and stuff. He was taking estrogen. He's never going to become a woman, and his behavior was not like a woman. It was like just an abusive man, and he was so degrading to a woman, and because he was someone taking hormones, and it's basically like a very mentally ill person. So when somebody's very mentally ill, you know, normal behavior isn't to say, shut the F up, like you just kind of wait till it blows over. But now these mentally ill people are invading women's bathrooms and raping women in prison and um, desecrating girls' bathrooms in sports and women's female spaces, all in the name that their psychoses trumps any human rights that females have. And what's so psychotic is that folks are enabling this mental illness. So, um, yeah, this is shame on the left, shame on liberals for abandoning morality, because, like, uh, true liberalism, classical liberalism, isn't some man identifies as a woman and he gets to rape women and girls. Um, but that's ultimately where this leftist agenda goes, because people will gaslight what happens, and they'll pretend like it doesn't exist. And the thing is, um, this so the left is like, the right didn't do good. The right raped women, they killed people, they stole, they oppressed different skin colors. The thing is, it's not the skin color or the political agenda that did evil things. It was bad individuals, bad groups of people. So people will stereotype, just like the left doesn't like to be stereotyped, but the left totally stereotypes. The left has totally stereotyped people, Caucasian people, conservative, Christian, heterosexual, heteronormative, Western. Like, the left is totally stereotyping their enemies. But then the left is like, you shouldn't stereotype me. You can't stereotype my skin color or my background or my politics or whatever. But my point is that the left is like, well, because I'm the left, I can do no wrong. And that's just not true, because humans are human. And that's the thing about conservatives, is they're human. They're corrupt. And conservatives are they're going to kill people, they're going to oppress people, they're going to rape people, they're going to steal, because they're human beings, because they're corrupt. It isn't because they were conservative or Christian that these bad things happen. It's because they are a human being. Same goes for the leftist. The leftists are they've been stealing, they've been murdering, they've been raping, they've been killing, not because their their politics per se. It's because they're human beings. I think they're more demonized because they don't have Jesus around, so they're definitely are harboring more supernatural, um, like slings and arrows and darts and stuff. That's probably driving them more crazy than the average person. But my point is that the left likes to accuse the conservatives as being evil, the oppressors, genociders, doing the crusades, um, just all the bad things you can think of, um, and the thing is, it wasn't because they were conservative that the patriarchy raped people or whatever. It was because there was a mentally ill psychopath man that was enabled by those around him. And so people, the left is like, has been church hurt by Christians because these fake Christians did not hold the psychopath man that was raping people or killing people. And who are the people that are raped and killed? It's the vulnerable people who don't have any leverage. So um so those in the community, shame on those in the community that allow men to, or that allow anybody to rape and incest and murder and oppress and bully anybody. However, we are seeing the left do the very same thing. The left is totally bullying. The left is totally killing people. The left is raping people. And they're also gaslighting. They're also covering it up. So my point is that Christians and conservatives did bad things. And the left also have done bad things and are doing bad things. Everybody's doing bad things. And but the left gets to say, "Oh, but we've never done anything bad," even though we're seeing scads of bad behavior. We're seeing evidence to the otherwise. Because the conservatives are never saying, "Oh, we're so holy, we've never done anything bad." At least they're not saying that now. I mean, like when I was a kid in the 80s, there was Iran-Contra scandal. And so there was, I remember General Haig was interviewed, and that was a big deal. Um, but yeah, we're in this uh, weird phase where the left is like, we're holier than thou, and the haughtiness of all these like leftist people who are interviewed, they're so like, they act like if they're offended, you're gonna back down. They act like being so offended is the weapon. And conservatives and Christians, you need to stop feeling shame for your morality, for your standards, just for speaking up. Because that's what I'm noticing the left is doing. The left is doing all this shaming and blaming of conservatives, of Christians. And the thing is, we like we and the left is playing dirty. The left plays dirty at every step that they can. And conservatives and Christians are not experienced with playing dirty. The decent ones that care and that have are willing to engage. The conservatives and Christians that know how to play dirty, they've got other fish to fry, clearly, because there's not a whole lot of them out there, contending with the left. But yeah, so conservatives and Christians, you need to stop being shamed, stop accepting blame that the left is trying to push on you, because the left are the hugest hypocrites on the block. And it's not up for Christians and conservatives to take responsibility for other people whose their bad behavior. It's not our responsibility to take responsibility for what other cultures have done, what other countries have done, in the 1400s. And the thing is, the left doesn't even know history. And so we're like trying to talk with the left as if the left has any intelligence, has any sincere ground, and they do not have a foundation. Like, if because they walk away, they walk away. The moment you ask, like, the second question or the third question. uh so I think conservatives and Christians, like, need to have some emotional courage. And yeah, where did it go? Like, how did men get so emasculated? How did Christian men get so emasculated and so afraid? And you know, like, and I guess it's like women are like, well, I've got to look fabulous, so and the men have to. I don't know. I don't know what happened, but it's like men aren't allowed to speak up or be protectors, and so they they're shamed uh, out of doing their natural response. Like, I was watching a video. Um, these couple were approached by a moose, and the lady ran, and then the guy, um, he had like a stick, and he, just as the moose was gonna approach him, the guy held the stick, like, in the moose's face. And so the moose stopped, and the guy just waited, and then the moose walked away, because the moose understood that he would get, you know, jabbed with the big stick. And this is like, a man is made for battle. But progressive culture, modern culture has like emasculated and effeminized even conservative men. Like, they're like, you know, I mean, and of course our culture has traumatized them with the military and drugs and drug culture and porn and stuff like that. So there's just been so many attacks on guys. But, like, you know, it's like, where are the caring parents? Where are the caring wives? Where are the emotionally intelligent people, um, communities or friends or family, there to bring up adult men? Like, because it seems like they're not around. It seems like men have been so damaged, and I'm not blaming them, because clearly they've been targeted. And yeah, like, we need guys to stand up and protect the vulnerable. And I guess it's just that we're in a fallen world, and this is just how it is. But um yeah, it's just like, I guess it's like, we're also, we've got our technology, and all of our role models are soy boys. Are boys. That's who the male role model is, unless they're like some kind of crazy Rambo thing, and then that's like, So there's not a real, um, like, emotionally intelligent, balanced, protectorish. I mean, I guess, like, John Wayne might have been somebody like that. Uh, I don't know. I don't know my media, but sorry about the noise. It looks like there's some people talking loud out there. Okay, well, I'm gonna end this for now, but thanks for watching.